Hi, welcome to How Roots Will Travel. Sometimes my travels take me places I wasn't sure I was going to go, but I was intrigued by the fact that Taylor Swift, who's such a strong presence in my household because of my daughter Samantha, um, she, I, I just somehow discovered that Taylor Swift had some French Canadian roots. So I decided to go exploring, and I was amazed by what I found, and wanted to share my discoveries with you because I think it's important to know that, as a genealogist, you never know where those roots will take you. Have roots will travel. We don't know. And ironically enough, my daughter informs me that the current tour of Taylor Swift that she's doing does not include Canada. So I want to put a shout out to the fact that she really does have some French Canadian roots. So she needs to go. She needs to go home at some point and visit her roots. So let's have a look at Taylor Swift and how is she French Canadian. One of the things we find when we look at genealogy is that there's usually a gateway, ancestor that helps us. So we have Taylor Swift. You can see in that the apex, if you will. Her father Scott, her mother Andrea Finley, and then we have Andrea's mom and dad, and there's a whole story there for sure. But in terms of the French Canadian, we have Scott, and then we have his parents, Archie and Rose. And then we have Archie, his grandfather, Scott's grandfather, Archie Swift, and Bernice Thompson. This would be Taylor Swift's great grandmother. She is the gateway ancestor. Let's find out how does she lead us back to French Canada? Well, first of all, I want to tell you that Taylor has one of a Fille du Roi, king's daughter, among her great grandmothers. The Fille du Roi was a group of women who came to New France between 1663 and 1673 and were contracted and came across with the express purpose of getting married. To a soldier, usually, or a person that was already living in New France, and they were awarded an amount of money and king's dowry. They came across. Many of them were either orphans or from an impoverished family, or alternatively, they were from the noble class and wanted a new start. So we don't know their stories. Their stories are very unique. And I go into depth about Les Filles du Roi in my, I have a video that I produced called Les Filles du Roi the Program, and I'll put a link to it so those of you who want to explore it. But let's have a look at the Fille du Roi that is Taylor Swift's great-grandmother. And Petit, Taylor's ninth great-grandmother. Jeanne Petit was born about 1656 in La Rochelle. She would go on to marry François Seguin La de Route. They would settle at Saint-Ours, at Boucherville, and lastly at La Chênaie in Quebec. They would have 12 children and would have, by 1729, 101 descendants. So you can see, you start with Jeanne Petit in the pink, her son Jean, his son Pierre, his daughter Catherine, then Peter Hart, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Maria Kingsley, there's that Bernice Thompson, then we have Archie, Scott, linking us to Taylor. And that is the road to Quebec on one angle. Let's explore others. So les Filles du Roi were, the king's daughters, came from 1663 to 1673. But what about the women who came before? From 1634 to 1662, lots and lots of women came, and many of them were Taylor's great-grandmothers. They were truly pioneers. They didn't come in groups. They weren't paid by the king. They were looking for a fresh start, a new start in a new land. Let's have a look at one of them. Gillette Ban was Taylor's 11th great-grandmother. She was born in the region of France known as Normandy in Caen. She would marry twice and have a total of 7 children. Sadly, her daughter Elizabeth was abused by her husband to the point where she endured both physical and emotional abuse. Gillette and her husband Jacques poisoned their son-in-law with the knowledge that, Elizabeth knew that they were doing this. Juliette and Jacques were tried and executed for their crimes on June 9th, 1672. Just a tragic, very, very tragic story. The descendants, as of 1729, would number 286. So there are a lot of descendants of this very tragic couple. Because you can imagine that Juliette was fighting for her daughter. There is no other way. This is a mother's instinct. So we have Juliette Van, and then she has Marie Chauvin, who then has Marie-Françoise Desnoyers, Geneviève Barbeau, Pierre Seguin de la Route, Catherine Marie Seguin, Peter Hart, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Marie Kingsley. There's that Bernice. We have Archie, Scott, and then Taylor. That's 11 generations. And then we have Elisabeth Target, who was Taylor's 10th great-grandmother. Elizabeth was born 1635 in La Rochelle, France. She married Mathurin Gerbert de La Fontaine, and they would have 7 children and 107 descendants. We have Elizabeth, we start with her, Jacques Gerbert de La Fontaine, then we have Marianne Gerbert, Pierre-Paul Cloutier, Marie-Geneviève Cloutier, Barbara Topham, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Marie Kingsley, Bernice Thompson, there she is again, Archie, Scott, and Taylor. Francoise Grenier is Taylor's 11th great-grandmother. Now, Francoise is a bit of a mystery. We do not know her year of birth or her birth location. What we do know is that she was the very first fille mariée, or marriageable girl. She married Noël Langlois in 1634 in Quebec. They settled at Beauport and would remain together until her death in 1665. They would have 10 children. By 1729, their descendants would number 1,388. Can you imagine that? I've also have a video that I have on my on this channel about Francoise Grenier, and you can link. I put it in the notes there. So let's have a look at the line. Francoise Grenier gives birth to Marianne Langlois, who marries a Pelletier, and then her daughter is Marie Pelletier. Her daughter's daughter is Marie-Anne Gerbert, Pierre-Paul Cloutier, Marie-Geneviève Cloutier, Barbara Topham, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Marie Kingsley. You sure like that Barbara name in this family. Bernice Thompson, there she is. And then we have Archie, Scott, and Taylor. Marie Anne Hardy was Taylor's 9th great-grandmother. She was born 1635 in Alger, France. She married Pierre Mallet in Montreal, where they settled, making her one of the pioneers at Montreal. They would have 6 children. Marie Anne would pass away at the age of 82, leaving 182 descendants as of 1729. So we have Marie Anne Hardy, Louis Mallet, Marie Anne Joseph Mallet, Catherine Marie Seguin, Peter Hart, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Marie Kingsley, there's that Bernice again, Archie, Scott, and Taylor. Here is Marie Riton, Taylor's 10th great-grandmother. Marie was born about 1625 in La Roche-sur-Yon in France. She would marry Léonard Leblanc, and they would settle at Beauport, Quebec. She would die fairly early in 1674 at the approximate age of 50. She would, however, leave a legacy of an amazing descendancy of 567 descendants, for which I and my daughter Samantha are part of, making us related to Taylor Swift, much to my daughter's delight. And I have produced a video that I'll link to on my YouTube channel. So let's have a look at Marie's descendancy. We have Marie, Marie-Elisabeth Leblanc, Jean-Baptiste Cloutier, Pierre-Paul Cloutier, Marie-Geneviève Cloutier, Barbara Topham, Barbara Hart, Laura Ann Jacket, Barbara Marie Kingsley, Bernice Thompson, Archie Swift, Scott Kingsley Swift, and, of course, Taylor Swift. Jeanne Solde is Taylor's 10th great-grandmother. Jeanne was born in 1633 in La Flèche, France. She came to New France as part of the Grande Recrue of 1653, the Great Recruitment of 1653, that was part of an effort to save the struggling settlement of Ville-Marie, which is what Montreal was called originally. She would go on to marry Jacques Beauvais de Saint-Gemme, and they would settle in Montreal and have 9 children. As of 1729, she has 226 descendants, and I also have produced an episode about her on Les Filles Mariées series that I do. So have a look at that if this is one of your descendants. I hope you enjoyed this journey through Taylor Swift's French-Canadian history. I certainly enjoy getting to know her and seeing how my tree was connected to Taylor Swift. Had no idea when I started. And just really enjoy kind of figuring out where the road leads as a genealogist. It's always very fascinating. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions of who else I could profile, would love to do it. I'm not adverse to just singers. Please let me know in the comments below. Until I see you on the next video, bye for now.